those of you who are regulars to the channel will remember that back at the beginning of April I produced a video showing how I was trialling no-dig potatoes for the very first time. Now, I've never used the no-dig method before, but based upon the success that other people were suggesting that it gave, I thought I'd give it a go. And in this video we're going to see the results of that experiment. I'm going to dig up my no-dig potatoes just to see if no-dig potatoes are really as good as people say. Now, these are my main crop potatoes that have been planted in the traditional way. Just to the right of them, you can see here where I've got the grass clippings, there's just one line of no-dig potatoes which goes right the way to the metal fence at the back, and they're the ones that we're going to dig up today. Now remember, this is an experiment and I've never done this before. I haven't had a sneak preview or tried to have a look. What I'm about to do now will be just as much a surprise to me as it will be to the viewers watching this video. So I'm quite excited to see if it's been successful or not. Now, if you want to see how I planted these no-dig potatoes, then I'll refer you to the video that I produced at the time. There will be a link in the comments below. So if you watch that video, you'll see that I put some newspaper onto this ground, put a few inches of my own homemade compost, put the potatoes on top of that, and then layered on top of the potatoes grass clippings, which I topped up a few times after I'd cut my grass. And that's all that's been done to these potatoes, apart from a little bit of watering here and there. Nothing else has been done. So as you can see now, we're about 13 weeks later, and that's round about the right time to harvest these. And you can see that the grass clippings, as expected, have decomposed right down. Some of the foliage for the potatoes have started to go a bit yellow at the front and wither again, which is perfectly normal when they're ready for harvest. They do appear to be a little bit healthier at the far end. However, that could be due to the fact that they had more grass clippings at that end of the potatoes. But let's see. So here are the first potato plants here, right at the front of the row. If you remember from that video, I planted two seed potatoes next to each other. Here I can see this is obviously the one at the far end. So this one here, there doesn't seem to be an awful lot of growth on this one. So let's move some of the mulch away to actually have a look if there's any potatoes in there. And there does appear to be some. Oh yes, there are some potatoes here. Now these are swift potatoes, so as far as I'm aware they're not a large growing potato anyway, but considering there's no growth on the top of that, so now I'm going to take up the plant which has got more growth on it at the far end. So let's see what happens here. I'm just going to pull it out, and that's producing some larger potatoes, which is good. In the bucket. But let me just have a rumble around here. So that's the first two plants harvested, and I wasn't really expecting very much from that based upon the growth above it. If I just show you what's inside this bucket here, if you can see, there's some decent sized ones in, quite a few small ones, but nevertheless the harvest is surprisingly good. So I've just got my wheelbarrow and piled the mulch that was on top of the potatoes and the potato plants straight into the wheelbarrow, and there go on the compost heap, which is really good, but it's almost like a closed cycle. All of those grass clippings, not only were they helpful in producing the potatoes, they're also going to contribute to my compost heap for next year. One thing that's remarkably different about harvesting these potatoes is you literally just pull them up and they're all exceptionally clean. One thing I've found with harvesting main crop potatoes was a few things really. Firstly, you have to dig into the ground, and therefore the possibility, because you use a fork, is that you're going to spear some. And that's inevitable. Every year I spear a few of them, and they still get used, but it's still a bit of an inconvenience. Secondly, when they're dug out of the ground, they're often quite dirty and need to be washed as well. These potatoes will need, they will need a rinse, but they won't need a thorough wash. So that's a massive advantage. So we'll do the same thing again now for the next potatoes along, see how many potatoes we get. Now there doesn't appear to be as many with the second two as with the first two, but again, some of them are a decent sized potato, And I'd say I've probably got about maybe a dozen different sized potatoes, which all contribute to the harvest. Now remember, these are first earlies, and I know because I've grown potatoes for many years that the main crop are going to produce a load of potatoes. So these are a real bonus really. And to harvest them in this way is a real surprise to me. If I'm honest with you, as I've been watching these grow slowly since they were planted, I haven't been overly confident that I'd get many potatoes. But in 4 plants, I've already got half a tub. And these are types of potatoes that you can wash and scrub and just boil. They won't need to be peeled. These are like your salad potatoes. So I've got to be honest, with the first 4 plants, I'm very impressed. So I'm just going to go and harvest the potatoes now in exactly the same way all along the row, and I'll show you how many potatoes I've got from my no-dig experiment. So that's all of the no-dig potatoes harvested. I've counted that I've harvested 16 plants in all. And as you can see, I've managed to get one full large pot full of potatoes. There's some decent sized potatoes in here, but there are also some small ones, a bit mixed, just like you do when you harvest other potatoes as well. Now when I was harvesting, you notice when I did the first few, there seemed to be a reasonable amount of potatoes with each plant. But what I found as I went further back, the amount of potatoes I was getting per plant was slightly less, and I'm not too sure of the reason for that. There was more mulch at the back and the plant growth appeared healthy, so I was expecting more. Nevertheless, for first early potatoes, I'm really pleased with these. They're nice and clean, decent size. I'm sure they're going to taste amazing. So then, as far as the experiment goes, was it a success? I think the answer to that is a resounding yes. If I'm perfectly honest, this has really surprised me. I didn't have many expectations based upon what I was doing, the fact that I wasn't putting the potatoes into the ground, literally on a couple of inches of compost and then covering with grass clippings. I wasn't overly convinced, and it was an experiment, but I'm surprised at the results. And I really believe if I was to grow different varieties, large potatoes, and maybe add a little bit more mulch, I think my results are going to be even better. And that's what I'm going to try next year. If you were to ask me, should you try no-dig potatoes, based on this experiment alone, which has given me my first results, my answer is going to be yes. Like everything in life, when you do things more and more, you get better and better. And for a first attempt at no-dig potatoes, I'm really pleased with those. So I'm definitely going to try it again. And maybe it's giving you confidence to give it a try for yourself. You don't need an awful large area. You'll notice I've only used one row just as an experiment. So you could do it in a very small area just to try it for yourself. Now, I know a lot of people already use this method for growing their potatoes, but if you, like myself, have tried it for the very first time, I really would like to see what your opinions are. So if you could add a comment below this video, that would be absolutely fantastic. I really hope you've enjoyed the video and it's motivated you to try it for yourself. And if you did like this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. And if you want to subscribe to this channel for future videos on how to sow and grow fruit and veg and flowers, and 1 or 2 recipe ideas, don't forget to press the subscribe button. I'll see you all on the next video.